Hey everybody, welcome to Vespers. We're so glad that you have joined us again this evening as we have a chance to be together once again and to celebrate the presence of Christ who's in us, among us, and beyond us. And tonight we light this candle recognizing that and also remembering all those in our community and in our world who are suffering. So we hope that tonight that you will remember that you're not alone, that there are other folks who are out here who are continuing on this journey along with you. This past week, I found some time to be outside a little more. It's been some great weather. On Saturday, we were out back. Melissa was pressure washing, and I was wrestling with a vine that was growing up one of our old trees that had been up there for years and years. And I didn't get it all down, but I got some of it down. And then last night, Emma and I took a walk around the neighborhood, and it was such a wonderful time to get to just be with each other and to get to take some time to slow down. I know that the situations that we all find ourselves in right now are varied and different. There are many who are suffering. There are some who find some extra time. There are some whose time is just seem to have flown away because they're working harder than ever. But no matter where you find yourself, it's my prayer that you can find some peace in the midst of this, that you can find some bright spots, and remember that Christ is present with you, and that you have a family of faith who's also walking this road along with you as well. One of the things that this has reminded me about so much more is just the importance of our community, the importance of our community of faith. As we're distanced and I can't see you all as much, just seeing your chats in the YouTube feed, seeing emails come through, spending time on Zoom meetings with you all has really gotten me through this time. I hope that you are finding that same community as we continue to do our best to reach out to one another, to be the body of Christ, even though we are distanced. We're so glad that you have continued to reach out and to be this beautiful and caring and loving community of faith. Tonight, we get the opportunity to talk with Isaac Scott. Isaac's been at Central for quite a while. He sings in the choir. He's our church moderator. And I really miss getting to hang out with Isaac on Sunday morning in the foyer and talk about Star Trek or maybe trips to Scotland or Colonial Williamsburg. So I'm so glad that he took time out to talk with us this evening. So we're going to go now and talk with Isaac. So, hey Isaac, how are you doing?
Hey Aaron, how's it going?
Good.
The day.
Yeah. So off of work now, and ready for an evening in the midst of quarantine.
Or exile.
I hope it's not exile.
And I'm not a super fan of working from home, so I feel like it's exile.
Oh yeah, yeah. So has it been a lot harder working from home then? I mean, trying to connect with people and get stuff done.
Uh, it's been kind of tricky, not having as quick access to some of the stuff I usually have. Luckily, I've got a decent computer set up, a lot of the files I can get a hold of, but sometimes being able to lay my hands on something physical is kind of tricky, but
Yeah.
it gets there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it makes it difficult whenever our workflows change. We got to find different ways to get things done. Can be kind of maddening, and the time seems to it's harder. It seems harder to be able to say this time is work time and this time is not work time. Sometimes for me, I don't know about you. Um,
I try to keep as strong a separation as I can.
yeah. Yeah, well, I'm sure you're better at that than I am. So, but we had some folks say they'd like to hear about some background of folks we talked to. I know you've been at Central for a while, and but let's talk a little bit about Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from originally, what brought you to Central. How long have you been at Central?
Okay. As of January, I've been at Central 11 years. Um, I was born in Harrodsburg, grew up in Mercer County. Uh, let's see what's worth going into without boring people to death here. Um, Pretty much stayed in Mercer County until I graduated from high school. I went to UK, have a degree in accounting with distinction from UK. Went to work for state government, worked for state government for 29 years. First 6 years, I was in the state auditor's office. In fact, Regina Grubbs and I started in the auditor's office on the very same day.
Really? I did not know that.
And then the last 23 years, I was at the Public Service Commission. That entity regulates utilities in the state. Retired from the state, and within less than 48 hours after retiring from the state, had an offer to go work for one of the companies I used to regulate. And I've been at East Kentucky Power since November of 2008. And I have the title of pricing manager there. It's mostly dealing with regulatory uh, kind of stuff, keeping up with our rates, our members' rates, contracts, and anything else that comes up from the regulatory side.
Wow. Well, I knew you did that kind of stuff, and yet I don't know if I have enough knowledge to even ask you an intelligent question about that. I wish I did.
Well, it is kind of tricky stuff if you're not used to it. It's a different twist on a lot of the stuff I was doing at the commission, so it was a fairly easy transition. Most people probably don't know who East Kentucky Power is. If anything, they're more familiar with our member systems such as Bluegrass Energy, Clark Energy, Intercounty
Yeah.
Energy, Shelby Energy. Uh, there are 16 distribution co-ops in the state. They own East Kentucky Power. East Kentucky Power is a generating and transmitting utility. We don't have customers directly except those 16 members. And then we provide the power to the 16 members, and they are the ones that most people are familiar with.
Okay. I'm getting a little better picture of it then. So you actually have the power. And then,
We are the generator and the transmitter.
yeah. Well, that's cool. So you've been there since 2008, and 48 hours after retiring. That wasn't a long retirement at all. What did you have? Did you have
Well,
anything? Did you get to go on a vacation or anything during that retirement?
well, I retired in the first day of August of 2008. They approached me within 48 hours of my retirement about coming to work for them. And then I actually started working for them in November. So I had a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Didn't do everything I wanted to do in between then, but did some.
Well, which makes me think. I know it wasn't that long ago. You did take a trip to Scotland. Um, so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I've been to Scotland twice. I went in 2017 in conjunction with my 60th birthday, and then went back again last year. The first tour was more along seeing certain sites. It was a train trip through the country, went from the East Coast to the West Coast and back. Last year's trip overlapped a lot of the same territory. It was on the same train line, but it focused on the gardens, different garden spots in Scotland, and I got lots of pictures of just unbelievable stuff. You just don't think that far north of gardening, but the climate is such that it's very conducive, and the gardens there are just spectacular.
Really? I did not realize that. I always thought of it as like a really just harsh kind of climate up there.
No, because the country's not so wide, it benefits from the different ocean currents coming over and keeping the temperature more moderate than you would expect. Now, it's not, they don't get as balmy as we do around here, but May and June, you can see 50s and 60s. You might break a 70 in July.
Really? Now 70 in July, that's not too bad. I could go for that. So, what was the draw to Scotland for you?
Mhm. My favorite line on that is, think about my last name.
I have no idea. I'm not getting it.
It has
I'm
Scott.
just kidding.
All the Scots have to come from Scotland. There's got to be something in there somewhere.
Yeah.
The area has always fascinated me, and I had read about this train excursion several years ago, and it just sounded interesting. And I finally decided I wanted to do it, so went and did it for my to celebrate my birthday, and then the opportunity came up last year where I could go back again, so I jumped on it.
Yeah.
Love the area.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'll pro- I'll probably at least try to go back one more time.
Yeah, well, that sounds beautiful. I've always wanted to go to Scotland. It sounds like like just a wonderful place to visit. That is great, and the gardens, had no idea about that at all. So, other than traveling to Scotland and that, what are some other things that you like to do? Some other hobbies or pastimes you got?
They aren't really that great of hobbies. A lot of the stuff I enjoy is history related. I love European history, especially focus on monarchy. Um, then I'm also into genealogy. Um, would love to get a little more success on tracing my father's side of the family back. I've only got them traced back to the 1820s. My mother's side of the family is traced back to pre American Revolution. I'm eighth generation um, American from on my mother's side of the family. Uh, both both her lines came in before the revolution.
Oh, really?
So, and I've got a pretty good sized database. It's not as big as some people's, but I've got about 800 entries in my genealogy program database, and would love to build it out some more.
Oh, wow. Now, where do you know where your mother's family came from prior to coming to the colonies?
The founder of her father's line was born in Londonderry, Ireland, Northern Ireland, and the her maternal line comes straight out of England. I've done the ancestry DNA. I'm probably as European as you can get. Uh, the majority of my mix is in the British Isles. The second largest group is Celtic from Ireland and Scotland, and then with a little bit on the mainland, northern France, the Low Countries, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's interesting. I've always wanted to do that, and I've never quite gotten around to testing my DNA for that. I think it would be really interesting. Since my grandfather was adopted, so Austin goes back, a generation, and then before that, who knows, So, and I'm pretty sure nobody was at the Alamo. So,
The big thing in genealogy is always just prepare yourself. You're going to find something you're not going to be really happy about. You will find skeletons. It's just like, for example, we knew that, let's see if I can get this right. My great great grandfather on my maternal side actually was in the Union Army and fought at the Battle of Perryville. You know, great, great feel about
yeah.
that. I went through the Civil War muster records several years ago and found the records on him and found out that, like a lot of people, though, within 2 weeks of that battle, he deserted.
Oh,
And it took over a year to find him. And he was court-martialed, spent some time at Camp Nelson in confinement. Just expected.
yeah.
Just like I always tell people, another twist on my family is if you go back 4 generations, you should have 8 surnames to work from. I have 6
That.
because my maternal great grandparents, my mother's father's line, were first cousins, and my father's parents were second cousins. So instead of having 8 surnames, I have 6.
Right. You could always just add a couple more in there. Nobody would know, you know.
Uh,
It makes for good stories, though.
yeah. Well, it's just like going back and on my father, what little I've been able to find out on my father's side, I've figured out where the name Isaac came into the line. I did figure that out, but haven't traced down as much there as I'd like
Yeah.
to.
Oh well, that is cool. So, so tell me, since we've been quarantining, and since you've had working from home and all that kind of stuff, I know you've done that. What else has changed? What's it been like for you? Since we all find ourselves in kind of different situations, how's it been for you since we've had to physical distance and all that?
Well, it really hasn't been that big a difference. Starting out, since there was no place to really go to, that kind of was a cutoff. But with things slowly opening back up and taking some precautions, I don't hesitate to get out a couple of times a week, run to the grocery or something like that. But take some reasonable precautions. I find it fascinating depending on what time of the day I go somewhere and where I've gone, what degree I find people wearing masks. And I realize that's a sensitive topic for some people, but that shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's not that big of an inconvenience. I was out at Fayette Mall, let's see, last Saturday, was it? Friday or Saturday.
Oh wow, you ventured into the mall.
Oh yeah, I've been in the mall, and I think I saw maybe 20% of the people in there were in masks, and if you had eliminated the work staff at the different stores from that, it'd probably been only 10%. But yet, when I run to the grocery, a lot of times I pop in Sunday morning before Sunday school and church, and the mask levels there on Sundays will be as high as 95%.
Oh wow, well that's great.
So I mean, it just varies on what time of the day and what crowd's around. So I don't, not real thrilled to see how many people are upset about it, but that they've got the right. So I'm not going to sit there and preach to them.
Right. But, I really hadn't thought about the fact that these things probably do change depending on time of day and the location you're at, what spaces you find people with masks on or not. So that's a good point.
It does make probably the biggest thing that's been an adjustment for me is that we placed my mother in a care home about 3 weeks before Thanksgiving last year. And just as everything was finally settling down, she seemed like she was getting fully acclimated, getting to where she was interacting with the people there, the residents there, and just seemed to be adjusting reasonably well. All visitation was cut off. At the time when the visitation stopped, between my sister and myself, we were seeing her 6 out of 7 days a week, even though it was, short visits, but still one of the two of us were popping in. That all totally stopped. Um, I've done a couple of window visits with her that didn't really seem to connect well with her. And they've now got a setup where you can come to a booth. We've tried it. I've tried it once, and it was okay. I'm thinking about trying it again in the not too distant future, just to try and keep some contact going. Um, it's a toss up. Her mental state has gotten to where she doesn't really understand what all is going on, and I'm thinking to some extent that may be a blessing.
Yeah. Now she's in like a memory care unit. Is that right? Or
It's designed specifically for dementia
yeah,
and Alzheimer's,
yeah,
and she's dementia.
yeah. Well, I know you've been spent a lot of time traveling back and forth to, was it Bergen where your mom was living before?
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
and so I know it's more convenient probably to have her close by there, and I hate that you're not able to get to see her now after doing so much.
Yeah, I'm less than 2 miles away from her right now. But I, on the flip side, I will give kudos to the facility. That, from what we know, they haven't had any outbreaks, or if they have, they've had them so well controlled you didn't hear anything about it. So,
Yeah. Well, you hate not to be able to visit, but at the same time, so much better that folks are taken care of and
yeah.
not getting sick right now. So
Other thing is, since I couldn't go see her, I felt like I had to do something. So, I have written more notes to my mother in the last 3 months than I've probably written in my entire life. I try to drop her a note every week, put two and two together. That's one disadvantage about her particular condition. My sister was around her more as this was progressing before we got her into the facility, and she lost the connection of who my sister is. A lot longer back. She's held on to the connection with me, but that's even broken at times. But
yeah.
all in all, she's in a lot better shape than she could be. We saw something similar like this with her mother. So
Yeah. Well, that's great that you're able to write notes to her and send that along and keep those connections with her too, even in the midst of this crazy time that we're finding ourselves in. So, is there anything that you've been doing to try to stay sane? Any
so it's assuming that I was sane to begin with.
well,
Uh,
relatively.
yeah, relatively speaking. Uh, nothing really out of the ordinary. Pretty much stay at a try to keep my routines as steady as I can. Um, I've got a very good friend in New York that I chat with quite a bit, and we commiserate with each other. It's funny. We've known each other for about 15, 16 years. And even though we come from completely different backgrounds, we have almost at times a scary similarity in how we approach things and how we view things. And we'll a lot of times comment about something, and the other one will chime in about great minds thinking alike.
Right.
So, it hasn't been 100% isolation, but several years ago, I was going to take my first trip to New York. And the day before, when I was getting ready, I was running some errands and had the Broadway channel on my radio, and New York the next
Yeah.
day. Well, during this whole quarantine, my friend in New York, in fact, had gotten me this. There was a 25th anniversary program recording made of Les Miserables. Now, this is a 10-year-old recording, but still, huge concert, goes through the whole program. I'm not that big on that particular style of music, but there is one song in the program that I really love to hear. And at the end of the program, they had the current cast. This was recorded in 2010.
Hmm.
It was recorded in 2010. You had the current cast that was doing the show. There were two other productions of the program going on in other parts of England. They had those casts present, and they had the original cast from 1985.
Oh, wow.
And the person in each of those casts that plays Jean Valjean, I butchered the name, but uh, they had all four of them sing this one song. Uh, they're all tenors. Uh, Sing it as individual solo pieces, as solos, duets, trio, and a quartet.
Oh my gosh. What song was it?
Bring Him Home.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. I'll take the house down.
Now, yeah, that it just about did. And the irony during the quarantine that struck me was one of the times I've played it a couple of times during my work day. And one of the times I played it was the day before Jeff Fox got to return home.
Oh really? Oh wow. Oh my gosh. Well, that's great.
I tell you that if you pay attention to coincidences, that will send a little bit of a chill down your spine.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good coincidence. Yeah. So glad, that he's continuing to recover, and that's amazing. Right before the day before, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that is cool. So, now, the other day, I was on Netflix and I was looking for something to watch, and I came across the old Star Trek, the original series, and started watching it again. The reason I'm talking to you about Star Trek, I don't know if everybody, I mean, you're a big Trekkie fan, or Trekkie, or Trekker? How do you say it? What's the...
I don't call myself a Trekkie, but I do like the original series, much to Raleigh's chagrin. I'm an original cast series person.
I love it. It's so good. And like I was taken aback again. It just like how good it was, So tell me, what's the best Star Trek out of all? I mean, you said the original series, but let's go with, what's the best Star Trek movie?
Oh, that's difficult because I've got copies of is it 6 of them? No, it's 5 with the original cast. And it's kind of an interesting trick. Some more into it than I am will point out that the second, fourth, and sixth, that's right, 6 movies, I'm sorry. The second, fourth, and sixth were the better of the original cast movies. Although I like the third one as well because it has a lot of humor in it.
Now the third one, that was the Search for Spock, right?
Search for Spock.
Okay, yeah.
Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock. What is the fourth one?
That's the whales. That's the humpback whales, right? Is that?
Yeah, and the 6th is the Undiscovered Country. I like all of those. My least favorite is the 5th one. And I think the reason I don't like it as well is that the 5th one had too many subplots going in it. It wasn't the fact that Shatner directed it. It was the fact that there were just too many subplots going in it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I want to go back. Actually, I kind of like the reboot movies that they've done, alternate timeline, blah blah blah. But they've not been too bad.
More power to anybody that likes them. I can hear Raleigh screaming right now, but I haven't watched any of those. I have no desire to see them.
What do you think about The Next Generation?
It was a great concept. The big mistake they made was the first season recycled too many plot lines from the original, so there wasn't as much original writing. After they got past the first season, it was a lot better, but because the first season wasn't as good, I never really got hooked on it. I've watched some of the Next Generation, but I still like I tend to like the movie set from the original cast.
Yeah, those were some good movies.
The best scene I've liked out of all, and it was because I saw it in fact, The Undiscovered Country was the last movie I saw in a theater.
Really? What year did that come
I
out?
really, oh, we ain't going to talk
Okay,
about
okay,
that. It's been a long
okay.
time. But what was so fun is at the end of the movie when Starfleet has ordered the ship back to port to be decommissioned. Uh, I don't want to use the full quote, but Spock comes back with the zinger about what he would tell Starfleet uh, if he were human. And when he uttered that phrase, the audience in the theater just roared and applauded. It was so just came out of you just didn't expect it. It was a fun thing to see.
Yeah.
You'll have to go and actually watch it. I'm not going to quote it. We might. I don't want to corrupt any young ears that might be hearing this.
Well, that's good. Okay, so I'll have to go back and watch The Undiscovered Country then.
Mhm.
So those are some good recommendations. Listen to Bring Him Home. Watch some Star Trek, and The Undiscovered Country. I think that's great. It's been so great to talk with you, Isaac. I really appreciate you taking time out to do this. So thanks so much for sharing with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody have a good evening.
Okay, you too. We'll see you later. Okay, bye.
Night.
Thank you so much, Isaac. It's such a joy to get to talk with you, to see you again, and to get to hear how things are going. There's not a lot of people who you can talk to about, long genealogies and Star Trek, and traveling to Scotland as well. So what a great time it was to get to hang out. We appreciate you so much, and we appreciate all of you. The opportunity to be together, to encourage one another, and to remember that we're not alone. Let's sing a song together before we go tonight. To remember that that even though we may be separated, that God is present with us. I need thee every hour. I need thee every hour, most gracious Lord. No tender voice like thine can peace afford. I need thee, oh, I need thee, every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior, I come to thee. I need thee every hour, stay thou nearby. Temptations lose their power when thou art nigh. I need thee, oh, I need thee, every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior, I come to thee. I need thee every hour, most holy one. Oh, make me thine indeed, thou blessed Son. I need thee, oh, I need thee, every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior, I come to thee. Amen. We're so glad that you have joined us this evening. Please join us again on Sunday. We'll be right back here on YouTube as we worship together again. If you have prayer requests that you'd like to share, you can send those to pray@lexcentral.com or share those or celebrations to your prayer requests as well on our Facebook group page as well. And then at the top of the newsletter, whenever it comes out a couple of times a week, you'll see a link at the top to our prayer requests page on our website where you can go find out about those requests as well so that you can pray along with us. You'll also find some links to Zoom groups on our website where you can find out more ways to connect at other times during the week with Sunday school classes or baby boomers who are meeting tomorrow, I believe. And so check that out on our newsletter and on our website so that we can continue to be community with one another. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Go in peace.